Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams.
Where we screen so you don't scream.
We're your host, Alex.
And Stephanie.
And this week, we are turned into wax statues in House of Wax.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we post new episodes.
House of Wax is a 2005 slasher film and is a remake of the 1953 film of the same name, which itself is a remake of the 1933 film Mystery of the Wax Museum, based on the story The Waxworks by Charles S. Belden. A group of teens are unwittingly stranded near a strange wax museum and soon must fight to survive and keep from becoming the next exhibit. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 28% with a critical consensus stating, bearing little resemblance to the 1953 original, House of Wax is a formulaic but better than average teen slasher flick. It also has a 44% audience score.
A group of college friends, Carly, her brother Nick, her boyfriend Wade, and their friends, Dalton, Paige, and Blake, are on the way to an out-of-town football game. As it gets late in the evening, they stop to camp in a field overnight, but after a creepy encounter with a mysterious truck, the group finds their car has broken down. While investigating a putrid smell near the campsite, the group discovers a pit of deer carcasses and a local man named Lester pulls up and offers them a ride into town. Wade and Carly agree while the rest of the group decides to take the other car to try to make it to the game. Lester is strange and vaguely threatening, so they end up leaving his car and walk into the nearly abandoned town of Ambrose. As they look for help with their car, they see that the town is home to a world-famous wax museum. However, nothing's as it seems as they learn of the museum's sinister secrets. They face escalating dangers and uncover chilling truths, fighting for their lives against a hidden menace.
We are about to discuss major spoilers for the rest of the film. Please jump to 16 minutes 20 seconds to avoid those for our ratings.
While looking for help, the pair stumble in on a funeral, where Carly and Wade encounter Beau Sinclair, who offers to sell them a fan belt after the burial. While waiting, they visit Trudy's House of Wax, a closed wax museum where everything is made of wax. So, basically the whole time they're in this town, Wade is just opening doors, just like, who's in here? Like, and touching things, and the wax museum is closed, and he goes and, like, melts things with a lighter, just acting like everything is his to touch and own.
Right. Like, Wade, can you be where you should be, and which is not everyone else's house and business?
Yes.
Like,
and the whole time,
away.
like, Carly is, like, slapping his hand, like, we shouldn't be in here. What are you doing? Like, he's like, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I deserve to be in every location that I please.
And I would be so embarrassed to, like, stumble in on a funeral where they're all, like, praying over, someone's dead body.
Right.
And just be like, wonder if anyone in here could help us. Like,
to be fair, you play the devil advocate for Wade. There was no, like, sign there was a funeral going on or anything like that, and it is a church, so realistically...
that is true.
That
is true.
Still, everywhere else, he should not be. But he decides to anyways.
Yes. So, Beau, like, meets them at their shop. They are behind the counter because Wade can't control himself.
Right.
So, he's like, no, I have the part up at my house. So, they follow him to his house. And he noses around there, too. Like, he's only permitted inside to use the bathroom, but he, like, goes into someone's office and starts, like, playing around with, like, this weird, encased in, like, formaldehyde, like, little lamb corpse or something.
Some animal of some sort.
Yeah, and he's just like, wee! Like, just jiggling it around.
Yeah, he's not concerned by that either. He's just like, oh, okay. That's fun to have.
That's a fun thing for me. This must be, like, a stress ball.
This is the kind of person we're dealing with here.
Yes. So he gets locked in this room, and someone emerges out of the darkness in a mask and, like, clips his Achilles tendon, and ow.
Ow.
An ow. Very big ow. So he's knocked unconscious by this person who happens to be Beau's twin brother, Vincent. The whole time, Carly is outside waiting in Beau's truck for both of them to come back, but she realizes it's the same truck from last night. So as soon as Beau comes back without Wade, she attempts to flee, but is captured and taken to a gas station cellar. Meanwhile, in the house, Vincent sprays Wade's body in molten wax, and he is alive the whole time, but just kind of paralyzed with whatever they had injected him with. They wax off his face.
The hair off his face,
the
not
hair
like
on
the
his face.
skin. Just his hair. As you do,
Might as well, honestly.
Right.
To start fresh.
Do you think he felt that? Like, we know he can't move or anything, but do you think he was, like, completely paralyzed where he can't feel it?
I'm pretty sure he could feel it, but...
Oof. That sucks.
I think it was just immobilizing him so that he wouldn't be too much trouble. The remaining friends can't make it to the game due to traffic, so Paige and Blake return to the campsite, while Nick and Dalton go to town to look for Carly and Wade. Paige is played by Paris Hilton, by the way, and like the whole time she is just hooking up with her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Like every moment that there's nothing going on, they are hooking up, doing something.
These characters could have been just completely cut from the plot, but hey, what's a way to sell your movie? Have Paris Hilton in it.
Yeah, for
Especially from 2005. Yeah, good selling point.
Yeah, and also Wade, I mean, R.I.P., but he is Jared from Supernatural. There's some big names on this, and Nick is Chad Michael Murray.
Yeah. That would have been during his prime too, I would say, right?
Right. I'm sure it is. So Nick and Dalton go into town to look for Carly and Wade. Carly tries to call for help. She's been restrained in the cellar, and he super glues her mouth shut. It looks terrible. He just restrains her. I don't know why. She can't fight back any more than just kind of like a little bit of a flail. Mm-hmm. He restrains all of her limbs, but then he hears people outside, and he goes and confronts Nick. And while they're talking to him, while Bo is talking to him, Carly is like trying to stick her fingers up through a grate outside the gas station, and she can't yell because mouth super glued. Bo notices and bends down and pretends to tie his shoelace, and with a bolt cutter just snaps off her fingertip.
Her fingy is gone. Well, just the very tip of it.
Yeah, it's still enough. Yeah, I would miss it. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. And I can't even watch this scene. I was like covering my eyes during it.
Yes.
Because I've seen this movie a ton, and every time I'm just like,
no,
I can't do it. And then the mouth.
So she realizes she can't get Nick's attention, so she like rips through the super glue of her mouth. Her mouth is bleeding. It's bad.
It's all bad. And the sound effect that they add, it sounds like Velcro ripping apart.
She calls for Nick, and he's able to kind of knock Bo unconscious and rescue her, and like Bo gets away, while Dalton finds Wade inside the wax museum encased in wax, and he's like posed in front of this piano. And you know, you would assume since he was hit with this like burning hot wax, he would be dead. But no, you see his eyes still moving. Mm-hmm, so Dalton's like, let me help you out there, and just starts peeling off of his cheek, and like skin's coming off too. So we're seeing like muscle, and he's like, you know, sorry about that. It just keeps going to the point where you can see part of his teeth and jaw, and he's so busy doing this, Vincent ambushes him and cuts his head off with these like intricate knives. Just starts the whole process with him.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And you were worried about the merchandise the whole time?
I was like, why are you like disassembling them? Just making it harder to preserve these guys as wax. Carly and Nick discover that the wax figures around Ambrose are actually wax-coated corpses of inhabitants and visitors. Vincent and Bo continue their mother's work using victims to create realistic figures. At the campsite, Vincent kills Blake and Paige. Paris Hilton Paige goes running, and he's already killed Blake somehow, like in the head, just like stabbed him a couple of times. And Paige goes running, and he somehow like javelin throws her like this pipe through her face.
Yeah, they're in this like warehouse, and she's hiding in a car initially, and she leaves the car huddled down beside it, and then she lifts her head up to look through the glass, and immediately he just takes this pipe, throws it, goes through both of the back windows, through her eyeball, hits the back of the wall, and then her head falls forward, and then her head goes further down this pole.
And I'm not saying that that's not horrible, you know, that she died and all, but I mean, if your whole goal is that you're gonna pose these people like wax models, then yeah, you're kind of damaging them.
There we go. Thinking about the product.
Just saying, if you want them to look realistic.
Yeah, but wax could fix it, just like
I
reshape the
guess.
wax.
I guess. Like, look at what Vincent's doing. He's got like this fake face on too, so I guess
Exactly.
it's possible. In the House of Wax, Carly learns from some pictures that the twins were born conjoined, and Beau faced severe abuse from their parents. So there's like this little opening scene, and we see the mother like burning wax, because she makes wax things. One of them is eating cereal, just kind of in their own high chair, minding their business. But then the father brings in the other one who is like screaming and flailing around, and they tie him into the high chair with these restraints. And the high chair is caked in old blood because they have done this many times before. And we kind of assume that going in that they are restricting the twin that has the facial deformity, because he is not average looking. He's not acting like the normal twin, but it is actually in reverse, and it is Beau who has like all these violent tendencies, and that they were restraining, and Vincent is more soft. I mean, still both of them are killers, so it's not like a huge twist.
Right.
So but Beau is a little bit more sensitive.
Because I've seen this so many times, I knew going in who the kid was being abused. I can't remember it like feeling like a big twist. Did it feel that way to you, or you're like, oh, okay, whatever?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me because they're both doing it. Like, if one of them was doing it, then maybe there would have been like a little bit more surprise there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it's both of them. So
it just subverts your expectation of being shitty to a disformed person. Mm-hmm. And that's really where that kind of ends. It's like, oh, yeah. Okay, well, cool, I guess.
Yeah, and pretty much it just sets up this power dynamic that Beau's kind of more in charge, and Vincent's more an artist that just kind of does what Beau says. Once discovered, Beau pursues them through the house. Nick starts a fire in the basement to get away. When cornered again, Carly kills Beau, and Vincent chases her to the top floor where she stabs him. So the whole time after this fire is set, the house is slowly melting because the whole house is wax. Of course, why not? Can't afford building materials, but you can afford wax.
Lots of wax in the hot heat of the southern state of Louisiana, I believe is where this is at.
And we don't see it. It doesn't look like it's melting on the outside, but you'd think it would. Right. But now that there's a fire, everything is very squishy. And like Nick even has trouble getting up the stairs because his feet sink in. Mm-hmm. And then he eventually makes it up to the stairs where she is struggling with Vincent, and Vincent attacks him and stabs him in the leg, and gets on top of him trying to kill him. Nick indicates to Carly, like, take the knife out of my leg and stab this guy. So she's like, sure, and she like twists it out of his leg and then stabs Vincent. But like, man, it looked like she really wanted him to hurt for it.
I know, like, it's not purposeful that she twisted it, but like watching it, she very clearly like does move it a little bit. I'm like, what are you doing? No,
right. It's not like just a yank, it's like twisting, like keys in a lock.
That was personal. She's like, she still has some unresolved issues with him right now.
They have like some tension, like he went to jail, so she doesn't exactly have the best relationship with him, but like once everything comes down to like life or death, they're on the same page.
Yeah, well, it wasn't more so he went to jail, as he blamed her for selling him out. Yeah. Because he allegedly stole a car, which he didn't. He took the blame for someone else. It was all very, like, complicated. And
well, Dalton stole it, and he took the blame, and then Dalton bailed him out, I guess. And then that's how we get to the beginning of the movie.
Let's go on this little trip together with this really weird tension between the twins.
Right, like, all of us. Like,
let's not. Let's just... They're not invited anymore.
So Vincent finally falls to his death as the House of Wax melts, and it like perfectly lines up with Beau, who's on the lower level. So they both fall into the basement onto like the thing where they prepare the bodies on top of each other, like face to face. So they are conjoined once again in melting wax.
Oh wow! Look at that
poetry.
Exactly.
The next morning, authorities arrive, reporting that Ambrose has been abandoned for a decade. As Carly and Nick are driven away, it is revealed that the Sinclair family had a third son, Lester, who waves them goodbye.
Oh, it was the guy who brought them to the thing, the town.
I mean, I suspected he was somehow involved. I didn't really need him to be the brother, but, it's just so that we can have a sequel, I guess.
Yeah, a sequel that has
never
yet to happen.
happened.
Right. Yeah, it was just like this weird twist. He was the brother, but again, he didn't do anything outside of just bring them there.
Yeah.
Lester
So I
doesn't
don't.
really want to kill. He's just more about the dead deer than
Mm-hmm.
about killing people.
Yeah, so busy with that. Like, do you
Right.
really have time?
No, he's like, I'll bring them to you, but that's where my job kind of ends.
Yeah. I don't even live in this town. Like, I just kind of bring them over here.
Sure. I mean, whatever you can do to help, we'll take it. Any little bit
Right.
helps.
Right, right. The House of Wax is based in duality as both the protagonist and antagonist are twins. The protagonist twins prevail as they have a deep level of trust and resilience with each other, pushing Nick to save his sister and for them to work as a team to survive. While Bill manipulates Vincent, exploiting his artistic talents to create lifelike wax figures from their victims. This manipulation highlights the toxic and abusive nature of their relationship, where Vincent is both a tool and a victim of both sinister plans. Obsession and madness are central, with the brothers' compulsion to preserve victims in wax reflecting their desire for control and perfection. Their twisted artistry continues their mother's legacy, pushing them deeper into insanity. The protagonist's fight for survival against the sinister forces of Ambrose showcases human resilience and the will to live amidst overwhelming terror. The wax figures that blur the lines between reality and illusion create an unsettling atmosphere, emphasizing how appearances can be deceiving and lead characters to question what is real. These themes converge to craft a chilling narrative that delves into psychological horror and human vulnerability, inviting viewers to confront the macabre aspects of the human psyche and the environment that shapes it.
Are you ready to discuss our rating?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Before we get started, we did change it up a little bit. It's still out of 13. Like, we're still doing the 13 scale, but we broke down the pieces into very specific categories that kind of will make up the 13. We identified 4 aspects of a movie that we think would lend itself to the overall horror rating. So we'll do each one, and those ones are out of 3. So we're going to tally up what that is, and that's how we get our 13. It'll make sense as we go through it. Our first category out of 0 to 3 is suspense. Where did you give House of Wax on a suspense rating?
I put it at a 1. I thought it was pretty obvious where we were going with it, kind of forcing ourselves into the situation. Like, at every corner, they kind of like forced themselves deeper into this situation that could have completely been avoided if they just like drove through the night and didn't camp. If Wade hadn't like had to search around the whole town, he could have just stole the part that he needed and leave. Just not surprising at all, really.
Yeah.
Or where you're wondering like where this is headed. It's pretty obvious that the other characters are fodder for the killer. I think it's very strange that it decides to be twin against twin. Or, well, brother and sister against twins, but we find out they are twins later on.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it makes more sense that they're the final girl and guy, but it feels very like boyfriend brother.
Oh,
and
yeah.
by the end,
it has a relationship that if you didn't know that and you just saw like a clip of the movie, you might assume they were dating.
Yes.
They're not.
But what about you? What did you have for suspense?
I gave it a 1 as well. I thought it had some good chase scenes, but I don't think it built that suspense before those chase scenes. They kind of just went right to it. So I think action-wise, the chase scenes were good, but I was never like edge of my seat expecting something crazy to happen, especially like even when Wade was in the dark, when he was in the room he shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they try to like build it to where the killer's in the room with him. But
you're kind of like, well, yeah, they shut off the lights.
Right, exactly. So I don't think there was ever a time where I was like super worried about our characters. I knew the majority of them were going to die. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't really surprised or worried. So I didn't give it a flat 0 because it did, at least attempt to do that in scenes. So it's not a 0.
Right. How about atmosphere for you?
Okay, so atmosphere, I gave it a 2. I think the house itself is where the points are coming from, because otherwise it's just like a small town, and it's not particularly scary. It's actually a quaint little town, I would say, and I really like the idea of, like, I'm sure I talked about this on the podcast, or maybe it was just to you, but the idea of, like, fake towns. Did I ever tell you the story about the car museum thing?
I don't know if you have.
Okay, well, really quickly, I was a kid and there was like this little museum thing where it showed a bunch of old cars, but the walls were lined with fake storefronts. And
Oh,
some you could
okay.
even go into. Like, I remember there was like a candy store you could go in, and it was all like play fake
Oh, okay.
town. And ever since then, like, I just like the idea of like being able to like go to like fake houses. I don't know. So, like, that's cool. It's not scary to me, but where all the points are coming from, or more so the house itself and like the where they encase the people,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty scary. And there's just like one wall of faces,
Right.
so that's where like the scariness comes from. So it's not like a 3, but that elevates it with the House of Wax.
Okay. I did give it a 3. I thought they were doing the most with like everything being made out of wax, from like the steps to the buildings,
Hmm.
that they were even like maintaining some people on like string, just to give the element of there being people in the town,
Hmm.
even at this like funeral scene and stuff like that. Everyone there is wax as well. Only Bo and Vincent are really like walking about the town as like alive people. Everyone else
Hmm.
is just staged in a way to make it look like there are people, but it's still abandoned enough to give that sense of like, well, this is a ghost town. Where is everyone, which I guess is what's compelling way to look. But I would be like, yeah, I'll just find some way else back. Like, I thought it was interesting with the concept of everything being made out of wax, the how they tried to go into like the artistry of like him like carving these people's features into wax after he's covered them and stuff like that. It's doing a lot. I don't know, I
Hmm.
really like this. I thought it was fun, even though it's very stupid.
I know, it was like, so I put this on here because I've seen it. It's one of those movies that realistically doesn't make a ton of sense if you really step back and think about it. But I
Mhm.
unapologetically love this movie. It's so bad, but so good at the same time. Where did you rate the plot?
Yeah, I had a 2. I thought it was very, concise enough, beginning, middle, end. Definitely working to move the plot along, obviously. Like the driving force is clear. Uh there also are like some stupid moments where you'd be like, nobody would keep going at this point. People would be like, I'm out, this is getting strange.
Hmm.
But it's a horror movie, everyone has to die, so I give it that caveat. So I think that's why I kind of settled on the 2. But like, honestly, we know my feelings about Wade, but when he like sinks with everybody else in the melting house of Wade, in the melting house of wax, at the end, I was like, bye Wade, you were an asshole.
Goodbye. Yeah, you had no sympathy for him. You're
You
like,
were a dumb
goodbye.
asshole.
It's fine. A little bit, yeah. I don't know if he
Yeah.
deserved to die, but
But I mean,
he was not the best.
he
He
was to
was
blame
just,
for everything.
yeah. Well, he was just trying to help. He just misguided.
Mm, I
I'm
don't know
cat.
if trying to help would be the word.
He tried something. It just didn't work.
Yeah. What about you?
I put it as A2 as well, largely stemming from the concept of melting your victims while they're still alive.
Hmm.
I think if they did them when they were dead, it wouldn't be nearly as scary as a concept, like, because you're already dead, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But the fact we see these characters being, covered in wax and alive and continue to be alive while
Yeah.
frozen, like, that's absolutely terrifying to me. So that really bumped it up to the 2. It doesn't happen a ton in the plot. We really only see it happen to Wade. The other time we see a character that's covered in wax, his
Hmm.
head was already cut off, so he was dead. So it
Yeah.
didn't reach that 3 for me, but it
Right.
definitely, like, the plot of covering the people in wax, and then the backstory of these characters was, I mean, it deals with child abuse, so I mean that's in and of itself pretty scary. So
Right.
that's where I'm getting the 2, but it doesn't reach anything like super gratuitous to where it would hit a 3.
Right. I mean, obviously there are like glaring problems with it throughout, but I mean, it's still doing something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What did you have for your villain slash conflict danger?
Yeah. So I did want to explain this rating a little bit. So if there's not like a specific like killer villain, it's just like whatever the danger is in the movie, if it's like an
Mm-hmm.
external force. In this case, we did have 2 villains, really, 2 killers. I gave that rating a 1, though. I don't find Bo scary. He's like just a guy.
Yeah.
Like if I saw him, I wouldn't be like, oh my god. And then so I would really give the 1 more towards Vincent, because he does have this like creepy mask, and even then it's just like a blank expression mask. So they're not very scary. Vincent's really opposing. He's super strong to the point where he's able to throw a pipe through 2 windows and then through someone's skull. So that's scary in the sense he's like super strong, but otherwise just looking at them, they're not really that scary to me. But I couldn't give them a 0 because they're still opposing and
they're trying to.
Yeah. So I gave it a 1.
I gave it a 1 as well. I thought I agree with basically what you said, that Bo's not like a very scary force. He's just violent. And Vincent has like the mask, obviously, but we even have like a very weird like mask unveiling. And I'm like, oh, well, Phantom of the Opera did this better. like
Right.
it doesn't, it's not that bothersome, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, you didn't really need that.
Yeah, and I do want to like mention, like, it is kind of messed up that you're making a facial deformity like this big, like, shocking,
right, like and they want you to be like horrified because both characters are like I'm like, no,
like that's not cool, but
yeah. And they saw the pictures from when he was a kid. They know what he looks like, It's not that hard to imagine.
Right.
But yeah, then also I had to give it a 1 as well because it's very situational. Like if you're not in this town, you don't have to worry about them like coming for you at your house. Like
right.
They're not expanding.
Yeah, it's just if you happen to stumble across Ambrose, just like turn away and like you're gonna be fine. Like they're not gonna come.
You'll be good. Yeah. They only want the town to be built up in wax. It's just there.
or if Lester picks some people up. Otherwise, he's the real problem. Honestly, if you wanted to like put him in the mix, he could be considered another villain of the story, but doesn't do nothing outside of, well, no, he does do something. He's the one who brings them there. So if anything, he's the worst one.
But he's like I feel like it's still very situational. Like they kind of stumble upon him. He wasn't like out looking for them.
Yeah,
at least we assume.
Right. Yeah, because they find the deer pit and he happens to be unloading his dead carcass. Yeah, so if anything, you know what? Our main characters are the villains. Wade. He's the problem.
Wade is the villain. Also, too, like, you would think if you get a ride from a creepy dude, like, you would put yourself between him and the girl that he's obviously keeps checking out. But they put her in the middle and he's just like, yeah.
Wade's like, okay, this is fine.
What's in here?
Save your girlfriend, please. Oh my god.
Right. That's why she needed her brother the whole time. And we also have an extra point for funsies, just to give it that extra oomph, whether or not we like theme or acting or, just overall had a fun time. And
it's like a discretionary point, like, kind of to what you said, if you like the theming, if you think that's scary, if you think the acting elevates it, makes you believe it. So it's just like an extra point. Also, it gets us to that 13.
Yes.
So did you give it your extra special point?
Yes, I gave it the extra special point.
Did you have any considerations, or was it just purely because you enjoyed the movie?
Yeah, honestly, it was because I was like at the end and I was like, oh, that was fun. I like that.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely gave it the point too. My considerations were, I thought that, the acting's not amazing, but I think they do enough to make it exciting. Like even Paris Hilton's character, like I believed it. I enjoy the concept. I absolutely love, I know we kind of talked about how a house made of wax doesn't quite make sense, but I absolutely love the finale of this movie where it's all coming down and they are like literally going down with the ship.
Yes.
So I definitely gave it that extra point because I think it just deserves it. I love this movie.
Me too.
And I'm so bad.
I thought it was fun.
I
highly recommend it. Watching it with a group, it just made it even more extra for that.
So adding up our points, yours came to an 8 and mine came to a 7 overall. So very middle of the road. It's not super scary, but it's not scary. So it has its moments for sure.
Yes.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show and listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, giving us a 5-star rating is super helpful. We will always appreciate that. If you are watching the YouTube version, you can like and comment on this video, and you can always let us know if you want us to cover a movie.
And you can find us on social media using 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
Bye!
Bye!